Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bitcoin Latam report. Today, we're doing a special episode because of what's happening in Mexico. And I have a friend with me called Rome. He has been living in Puerto Vallarta for a long time and he experienced firsthand what has been happening there. So, welcome, Rome. And I hope, thank you for coming on the podcast despite the chaos happening all over the country. Yeah, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm feeling great. Already bored. Back in COVID times, feel like being stuck at home, just waiting for life to come back.
Right. So can you give, you have been living in Puerto Vallarta for quite a long time. 2 years ago, you helped me organize a Bitcoin meetup there. There is a small Bitcoin community. So, just to give a little background, what brought you to Mexico? What are you doing there? Just
Sure.
background.
I lived here for 15 years. Just came here to learn some Spanish. Ended up working for a company which is super amazing. So schedule is great, life is great, the beach is great, the life is amazing here. It's always been safe. I come from France where I've been robbed many times before. And here it never happened. It's very safe. I think everybody's in shock today of what happened, but also we've seen worse. Like I just don't think it's the end of anything. It's change, maybe for the good, maybe for the worst. We'll see. We'll see that. But never seen this, and I think the whole country has never seen this either. So now we're processing the what's going on. But people are in a good mood.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's good news. I think like everybody starts seeing what's happening on social media, like the cities burning down. It's a different thing seeing it on the internet and seeing it on social media, but it's different actually seeing it from your balcony perhaps, or seeing actually the chaos happening in the city. Can you give us like a timeline of what happened? When did it?
Well, in the morning, everything was fine until 10 a.m. I went to the gym. Everything was great. Come back home, starting cooking, and then we start seeing the first pictures that happened downtown. So I'm like, oh, something's going on. Right away, I click in my head, and then a few hours later, when you start smelling the only difference is the smell of the burn tires. That was pretty got me my attention. It was burning right behind my house. Went to see, so they indeed burned a whole bus to block the road. The Four Seasons bus, unfortunately. Yeah, the difference is the tension. I think you feel here, and then everybody just vanished. It was just again back to 2020 times. That is really how it felt here. Everybody vanished from the streets, and then you can see smoke, and that smell is really heavy. So you close all the windows and just start seeing the news on social media. But it's not as bad. I would say it's just safety precautions mostly.
Yeah, because everybody was instructed to stay home, but there was no shootouts or anything. It was mostly basically cars on fire, oxos on fire, but there was no gunshots or anything. Did you?
I see there was fortunately a few gunshot, but I think that came in because they shot in the air when they stole the cars from people. That's mostly this. There was no fighting, actual fighting or anything, and people were not hurt. I mean, as far as I know here, they did just kick you out of your car and just say go away, But nothing. It's clearly a show of force, not something targeted against civilians or. That's right.
Yeah, and around like I think 5 p.m., then like the city started being taken over by the army again. Is this what happened, or? Uh,
I've seen one helicopter, but since then nothing. I've seen nobody. No cars of police, no militaries. I know they must be working on, the entrance of Vallarta instead. But I haven't seen or heard any vehicles. There's a few, but really few.
and this morning, what was the atmosphere? Are people scared? Like they went to buy groceries, or people are kind of relaxed? Like what's your perception, personal perception?
I went to Chedraui, just is the closest to my house. It was open. They had one counter open, so I just thanked that lady for coming and say, really, thank you for doing that. There was a line long up early an hour to pay for groceries. But people were really calm and joking, even joking around, making the best of the situation. There's no panic. People are fine because they know deep, that's not targeted against civilians or. anything like this. So I found the mood at the supermarket was decent. People were helping. Oh, okay. Pretty good.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. Yeah, because my mom, I'm sure it happened to you also, like people calling you from your friends, from friends, ask there's a war in Mexico. You shouldn't. My mom even called me today and like, you shouldn't go work today, even if I live in Mexico City. So, I don't want to minimize what's happening, obviously, because a lot of people suffered and got scared, and there was definitely some victims, mostly, I think, no civilians, but I think some army officers, and, they got killed. So that's really unfortunate. But overall, it seemed like there was a kind of a push for fear, or at
Yeah.
least on social media, it was exaggerated what was happening. It's like war is breaking out. I mean, we don't know what might happen in the coming days, but did people call you? Did they?
Yeah. My grandmother at 5 a.m., she didn't realize the time change. My mom, she didn't know about it until I told her earlier. She just doesn't watch news. So I said, okay, don't be scared. Whatever you see, everything is fine. It's not like this way to say it. So in France, they obviously know nothing. I've seen the news. It's very random what they say. They have no clue. It's the war. There's no war. I've seen more car burn in France in one night than I've seen here. Also, and it's like this. It's a show of force.
Yeah, France has a great reputation for doing great manifestation in Paris and burning.
But they do contest of how many cars they can burn. So that's like that.
Yeah, I can imagine also some people took the occasion just to, do extra damage. Here in Mexico City, there was like a car that burned, but it was just a bunch of teenagers that, got crazy, and they went on motorcycles, and apparently they had guns, but they were not related at all to the cartel or anything. They just, took the occasion to burn a car, which is also really stupid. But I'm guessing probably some people took the occasion to also do a little mess around. That's what happens when there is a chaos generally.
Mhm. Yeah. Like config stupid.
And what can you say about France? Because there is a lot of news about crypto people, Bitcoiners getting targeted all over France, like kidnappings. And the beginning of the year was pretty rough. Even high level people getting targeted, getting hurt. You have any opinion on this? You kind of jokingly made a joke before we started, like, at least I'm not in France. Can you say what's happening there?
I think it's proportional to the price of Bitcoin. Right now we have half less kidnapping than when we used to have in October. Terrible, terrible news. But again, that it feels like it's more a government overreach again than a simple strategy because it's going to be easier and easier to track who's got Bitcoin, who's got can hide. But I feel it's also a trend. You can also if they stop if they decide they want to rob people with gold, they can do that too. I think most robberies are still not crypto oriented. It's just right now the overreach and the media attention makes it like more a target. But reality is we need anonymity, of course. That's my opinion, person.
And how do you feel as a Bitcoiner in Mexico? So, for example, 2 years ago, we did a cool meetup. Is there anything happening in Puerto Vallarta? I think an Acapulco happened like right before Sunday. Is that right? I don't know if you're involved in this community or if you heard something, but I've seen like some people staying after the conference, and obviously they got scared. And some people are saying, well, when there's a situation of danger like this, well, then the government has more excuses to infer on privacy and track people more closely. Are you scared of that? Or what is it being a Bitcoiner in Puerto Vallarta?
Well, it's for me, it's not something I talk every day about. Mostly, I'm trying to hide it because I think now I always come back to people will get Bitcoin at the price they deserve. That's what I try to put to apply. I'm trying to just not being so adamant about it anymore because of those fears too, right? I have those back fears that, oh, if the price goes too much higher, there's too many people that know, that have Bitcoin. So where does it stop? Where do I have to put the limit? So I'm kind of making it blurry now, more into Don't talking about it in public, just with people I know or online communities only. That's mostly. I'm not trying to be the god of Bitcoin anymore because I found out that it attracts to some curiosity that most people don't have, and it's just sometimes I feel like it's a lost fight, to try to convince people because I've seen so many times where you explain them for an hour or two, spend time of your long time explaining, and 2 years before later they come back and they ask, "Is it a good time to buy?" They haven't gone into that search mode of why the value and all this. That's kind of my point of view, right? It's hard to convince people outside of the price.
So I think many people felt that, and obviously I kind of felt it over the years. Like when you become a Bitcoiner, you talk about it all the time, even to the tax Uber drivers. You try to convince everyone, but then you realize at some point, like if somebody doesn't do the whole journey by themselves, you cannot force them to adopt it. And when the price drops, they don't understand. You just need to buy more, and so you get this kind of this Bitcoiner fatigue at some point and not to
Exactly.
appreciate for and you're just like, "Oh, it's not worth it." Some people will just discover it, but you cannot force someone to become a Bitcoiner and really care about the values and the power of Bitcoin behind it.
Yeah, and let's face it. In France, again, the media when they talk about it, it still feels like 2010. Still, they don't take the fact into account. There's some great people though that start to be in TV, like Stashenko, Seb Guspiu. They're really good. It's not enough. I feel it's just that vision of Bitcoin is, they stay blocked in that vision of magic internet money. Basically, they don't understand why there's so many brilliant people that adopted it.
Yeah, for sure. And so no plans to do anything related to Bitcoin in Puerto Vallarta.
No, but they open. I know there's two ATMs now. We have access to cash ATM, so that's that going on. But again, with the fee or anything, I haven't used them 'cause I don't need to. Me, I'm not selling Bitcoin, right? I'm just keeping it forever. It's my pension fund. It's what I plan on having in 30 years, not right now. So I'm not even paying attention, to the drama. It's just I keep working and accumulate more. That's the whole goal. And being quiet and work hard, and that's what I do. That's what I try to do.
Yeah, and as you said, like staying private is probably the most best protection somebody can do in order to not get targeted in the future when the price goes up. But we without doxing your setup or anything, like, do you have any other advice on how people can manage their Bitcoin wealth? So staying quiet is the advice number one. If you're more public like I am, well, you don't have a really a choice
Mhm.
because I have a company, so I kind of am obligated to be public about it. But you have any advice for people?
My best advice is act broke and leave broke. It's just not attracting attention. I think is the most common one, and do other things that are not related. Being in charity, doing all the other things, part of the community that has nothing to do with Bitcoin, and not talk about it. Not mixing things. I think Bitcoin is to be online. It's not something because when you explain people in real life, it's not the same. It's their whole lifetime of brainwash of money, and they don't even know. So think it's splitting the communities, this community for this. This is my bicycle at the gym. The gym, you don't talk about Bitcoin, you talk about workout, and techniques. And nobody knows I have Bitcoin in my gym. Nobody knows. Don't have any signs or anything. Because the day you start saying, it happened to me at work, is I told everyone to buy at 10 grand, when I was starting. I said, you just buy it. And I had an urge argument, a huge argument with my boss at $26,000 last year and some time ago. And last time he was at 26. And I said, right before the big jump, I said, you should sell your kidney right now. That's the time I was super involved in trying to, preach it. And he said, huge argument. Anyway, a few months later, it was 100 grand. I said, I showed him, I said, look, you see this? That's four times your savings. It's four times the price of your kidney. But now it creates that stress because everybody knows I'm the Bitcoiner at work. So they're like, "Hey, you're gonna retire soon," and you get the same comments for the whole week until everybody told you something. That's something that you want to avoid. That's the thing you learn from my lesson is I don't want people to know because when it was 126, I felt weird almost, I said, oh, people know. It's bad. Everybody can say this, I kidnapped this guy or whatever. So that's the day I decided at the last bear market to be more quiet about it and just not talk about it too much. Even when it will be low and I want to beg people. Like right now, I'm already starting to beg it's only my family. I tell them, start putting money. If there's a time, it's now, let's start putting, it's going to go down. Maybe, who cares? You can buy more later, but it's going to go up. Nothing has changed. It's just an emotion. Like the price is a momentum. It's people's emotion in general. And that's why we have 4-year cycles. I think it's just people buying in, the ones that are coming in late, the ones that are early, which create that big waves, but every time it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. My favorite videos to show to people now is every time there's this guy that made videos, all the crash of over the years, he said, don't buy Bitcoin because it crashed once from $1 to 12 cents. And then all this other time, it crashed from $200 to $12. Oh, don't buy it because when it crashed from $1,200 to $200, this was terrible. But wait, let me tell you, when it crashed from 20,000 to 3,000, it keeps doing, it keeps crashing, right? It keeps crashing higher and higher and higher. And that's my best video today. I think I show when I try to enroll somebody, mostly my family, the hardest people way to enroll.
Do you have any experience or like orange pilling Mexican people? I must assume like with your 15 years there, you probably try a few times. What's your impression on how Mexican perceive money, investing? They're a little bit more traditional with real estate, I imagine. Like, do you have any opinion or experience with that?
Well, you have two types, right? You have the rich and you have the poor. And that's the way it kind of is, They don't think the same. The rich, they are real estate people for sure, but they will gamble. They're huge gamblers, and they're more like the guys that will lose money because they will buy when it's hyped and sell when it's low. But I have a few friends that are really decently rich, and they kept their crypto, but they bought all the other shit coins. They bought all the other stuff, but they kept Bitcoin because I'm the ones that got them into it. And so I always say, whatever you do with your money is your problem. Just buy as little as you can from the other ones and buy as much as you can and you keep it for 20 years. That's my only advice. It's not so, it's like I tell them, it's like a condo. You don't look at the price of your condo every day. You look at it when you want to sell it. And so and then we'll have all the people at my work when I have the low entry job, they're young kids. Those guys will gamble. Even if they make, let's say, 10,000 pesos a month, they'll try to put 1,000 into it. And I have some of them that just stick with it. They're like, look, my Bitcoin is worth 3,000 pesos from the 500 I put, and they won't sell it. That's because they stick to what I told them. So they don't have any notion of investment. They're young guys from small villages in Mexico making entry level salaries, but they will stick to what you tell them. That's what I notice more. The rich people, they already have their preconceived ideas. They're more gamblers. But for my assistants, they'll have Bitcoin for 5 years now, and they haven't sold a bit because I told them you just put some savings in there. It's gonna keep growing over the years, and it grows, and that's the difference I see mostly.
And did they buy more since like you told them a few years ago, or they mostly?
Yeah, my Uber driver, I paid him in Bitcoin. No, he takes it from some people. He put the QR code of his wallet. He's got the Moon wallet. I said, you print this, you can put it on. So he's got it stuck, and when people know, they see they pay him in Bitcoin. So he's got once in a while he gets payments and he doesn't sell it. That's my Uber driver.
Yeah, no, because I guess in Puerto Vallarta, you get a lot of international visits, tourists. So a sizable portion of them have Bitcoin, right? By default. So probably there is a potential of making Puerto Vallarta kind of a Bitcoin. I have some friends, they also are a little bit high net worth individuals. They were planning to maybe making it not a Bitcoin circular economy, but promoting it as a Bitcoin destination, which is going to be way harder now, obviously. But you don't think there will be a potential, like from a international perspective, to put Puerto Vallarta on the map, like restaurants accepting Bitcoin or hotels?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's just a matter of education. here for the locals because we know if any Bitcoiners, if he sees a Bitcoin logo, he's gonna ask if he can pay with it. Usually, if I see one, I want to say, hey, I see you have a QR code. And this is more up to us, to put those signs and explain people. I've done a few stores here to take it. But again, it depends, yes, where you are in Vallarta. If you're in a high touristic area, it's very close-minded people, the business owners and all this, they're very, I mean, you've been there. It's one of those rich people usually that don't want to change, that they see as a gambling. But yeah, it has potential for sure. It has potential. It's just a matter of a community here taking over and start registering businesses and having maps online for Bitcoiner, websites where they can see all the Bitcoin. They're all registered on Google Maps, for example, things like this. That's what it takes.
Yeah, great. Yeah. What do you think will happen in the coming weeks or months? Because, people are hearing about Mexico since forever that it's a dangerous country, but it was always kind of happening outside of the touristic area. Always maybe a problem. Problems always happen, but on this scale, I think we never saw this. I think you can give a little bit more background because you lived there for a really longer time. But do you think there's going to be a challenge for, like, for example, Puerto Vallarta to still make people, make them feel safe that they can come and enjoy their vacations? It's a major vacation destination for the US, for Canadians. What do you think will happen in the coming weeks? I guess if they control the situation in a maybe if pretty, pretty back pretty much back to normal in one day. So what's your vision and what do you think will happen?
What I know is it's like a phoenix. The city is like a phoenix. It always comes back out of its ashes. It's very, very resilient community, Vallarta. We went through many, many times of pure chaos and the end of the world situation, and we always come back straight. And the only good thing about social networks today is that everybody knows why it happened now. They have an idea. It's not something that is blurry to people's mind. They know that it's even full because of that, you know, drug cartel guy getting killed or anything. They know that it's temporary and it's not something that they're gonna settle and not kill everyone. They haven't killed everyone. I think it would have been worse if they had killed the tourists, but they clearly did not. So we'll go through it for the next few weeks. Gonna be tough. I think people are gonna cancel their flights, but then the how do you call that? The craziness, the tension is gonna go down, and there's so many things happening in the world that people don't think about it anymore. And a lot of people travel here with timeshares. They own places here. It's not like they're gonna be able to give them up anyways. And it's not like the business owners won't come together and work on something that's gonna work for everyone. So no, I'm not scared. We went through worse. The COVID times was the end of the world for because especially for hotels. Remember, I was like, no, we'll never be able to be again. We went better this year. It took us 4 years to recover and have a better year than before COVID, I think. But the city is really resilient. So I think it's going to work.
Can you give examples of apart from COVID, other stuff that happened that seemed like the end of the world, but first
Hurricane.
went back to
We had an almost hurricane in 2015. I remember also they already had cartels action 2012 when they had blown up a car with a grenade and there was a huge shootout in downtown Vallarta. It's just the way it is. I said this country has the capacity to function even with all the craziness around, and Vallarta is going to be the same. It's resilient. It's an event based on very strong things. They don't happen every day. They don't kill a drug cartel lord every day. They have no reasons to hurt people here. It's not a drug route or anything. There's just but we'll see what happens with whatever the states wants to do with Mexico and if they want to go on it.
yeah, I guess killing tourists will be really bad for business. So that goes against the incentives of the cartels as well to make more trouble than they need to, right? That's just will be stupid to kill innocent people. I mean, they always do, right? But in this situation, I think it will be a bad decision for them. Do you think the states now kind of have like the approbation from the Mexican people or from the tourists to intervene a little bit more now, or?
what I read online is really different from the people I talk to in real life. In real life, they all agree that the US should come, but online, it's always, 50-50. And there's people saying sovereignty and so both valid cases. I think they should not come. They should not have to come. But if it's getting too much hot events, it's not gonna fix the situation because this is layers of society that are corrupt. It's not like in El Salvador where they all have tattoos on their face. They're easy to identify. Here, you talk about people that are half they criminal, half they not, and you don't know. They look like
Yeah.
it's the yesterday the ones that were burning cars. It was kids bikes because 15 years old kids. They get them Molotov and they had their orders to do this. You can't pinpoint who it is. So it's very hard for the US to come and say, okay, I'm doubtful. I have doubt.
Yeah, I understand. On the longer term, what do you think will take to switch the because obviously the cartels, for example, they will recruit younger people that don't necessarily they don't come from rich families or whatever, and they will recruit them early on and propaganda. What it will take for Mexico, in your opinion? I know we're just two gringos, two foreigners talking about really deep problems, so maybe it's not really valuable our feedback, but I think it is. We live here, we contribute to the society here, so I think we still have the right to give our opinion. So what do you think it will take for Mexico to change in 20-30 years so it could actually become better?
I'm a partisan of the end of the war on drugs, but again, that's personal. I think that's the only solution. You can't make war on drugs. It is the same thing as the prohibition era. You create violence instead of controlling it. If the state, because I think humans have drugged themselves forever. It's just since they exist, they drug themselves. You can't stop it, and it's just well, at some point they have to realize that some countries it works like Portugal. They decriminalize everything, and they have the lowest, so I think, incidents in the whole Europe now. Why? Because there's no economical incentive to trade drugs. That's the whole point. You have to take the money, and then the money is the government at some point. I know it might sound crazy, might have to do drugs because people will do drugs anyways. Like you compare in France, it's the same. All the countries around France have legalized marijuana, except France. But now you go in Eastern France, all the weed comes from Germany next door. You just cross the border and you can go smoke weed. And it's ridiculous. And they do fights, they spend money, they go arrest people, but in the end, nothing changed. Actually, the consumption goes higher. If it was reinvested, if it was collected by the state, then they would use those money, those taxes to fund hospitals and psychiatric hospitals, because obviously you take drugs, you might need to end up, or to heal people for, you know, something that is done with alcohol, basically, something that there is a whole medical system around it. It's been legalized years ago and it's way worse. But that's the only solution. You don't, when you, we thought a lot about it in Mexico, and in Mexico, the reason they need to agree with the states to legalize this and control it. But you take the least, for me, it's the least of the worst. You have to make a choice. But it's a very opinion, very controversial, I know. But
No,
yeah,
sorry
I
I
won't
put
push
you on
on
the
people.
spot. Sorry I put you on the spot asking you like really hard questions, but
I'll be honest, it's okay. It's not something I'll push on people. Everybody has an opinion. It's just when you think about it, you don't see any other way. What can you do? Because there's always somebody that will do it. If there's money in the market, somebody's going to do it. That's capitalism hardcore. The states need to take over. The state needs to produce the drugs. That's crazy to say, but
yeah, they killed the biggest leader of the cartel, so that just means somebody will take his place, right?
yeah, they say there's six or seven potentials that can take his team because it's very decentralized organization.
Yeah, and in the end, there's definitely some darker things with the three-letter agencies being involved in the whole thing. And there's a big argument saying, well, the Mexican cartels provide the drugs to the US, but it's the US that provide the guns and all the stuff to Mexico. But there's a lot of studies showing that 80%, 70% of all the guns are directly coming from the States, right? So it's not like Mexico is the only one culpable of all this thing happening, because in return the US are supplying the demand for guns and everything else.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true, but I read that caliber 50 bullets all came from almost one place, the ones they use in Mexico, in the States, from almost like, it's crazy. But I remember in 2014, I used to work in the Sonoran border with Arizona, and I went for a weekend to Phoenix. And there's three stops on the way by customs when you go to the States. There's one at the borders, there's one after, and there's another one 20 miles after that. Because you get stopped three times they check you. And on my way back on Sunday, we just crossed back the border without even showing our passport. She just said, "Hey, pásale, pásale." It was so surreal. I said, "We just got back in Mexico. We could have brought whatever." She didn't even check on us. And that marked me that day. Yes, it's very porous border. It only works in one side. The other side to bring stuff back to Mexico. Very easy, indeed. Very easy. And that's the flux between the two is weapons against drugs and money. It keeps changing,
Yeah,
and it keeps feeding itself.
yeah, obviously. All right. Well, I mean, we could talk about this for a really long time, right? Well, I'm glad that the situation on the ground seems to be fine. I know it. I don't want to generalize for the rest of the country, and people are saying. I tweeted this morning like how you have to watch out for what you're seeing on the news and on social media, because there was also a lot of AI pictures circulating, like a whole plane on fire on Guadalajara. Uh,
Yeah.
Also, obviously, you always have to check, re-verify what you're seeing. I'm not saying it doesn't mean this situation is not serious or tragic and really bad for a lot of people, but obviously there's also some incentives on pushing a certain message that Mexico is completely a failed state. I don't know if you saw some of these images, and what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, no, well, I denounce it to AI slop, I call it. It was very obvious. I just don't like even accounts that pretends that be real, anti-fake news post this and just, no, obviously that's not a war zone. All right. It's more specific. It's not burn cars, don't kill people, it's a message that was sent. They have work to do, but no, it's not a war zone. You're not at risk of dying. Uh, that's a overstatement. The news has this, yes, way overstatement, but no, it's not a war zone. People don't get killed or kidnapped right now. It's not. It's Caden. But yeah, it's tragic in a way. But
I
it is what it is.
There's definitely some soldiers that got killed,
Yeah.
and that's really sad and tragic.
Yeah, when I say people, yes, I don't mean, we see the 25 militaries that died. Rest in peace. I'm talking about tourists and foreigners, and because that would be a strong message, and they haven't done that. This is not. It's not guided against tourism. It's not guided against people. It's a temporary war, and it will settle. Because at the end, they always settle. The narcos and the government, they will settle. They will find a way and to keep peace, because that's more important than any.
Yeah, because I feel like basically, people are saying Mexico is a failed state and the narcos control everything. And I mean, there's definitely a truth to that. But at the end, the one that has the most control over violence is the federal government, right? So whenever they want, they can show that they can find the biggest boss, even if it hasn't been found in 15 years. But
Mhm.
if they want, they can, you know, just show in one day,
Right away.
we're the boss and you have to listen. You went a little bit too far, so now you're gonna compliant, and I don't know. I think it's and if you look at the numbers, the violence in the last 2 3 years has been dropping quite significantly. So people forget about behind every number there's a tragedy, there's a family, there's a lot of human suffering. But I think you also need to look at the numbers in the end, which are still really, really bad. Let's not deny it. But I think the
Yeah.
violence has been dropping overall. So I hope it will continue this way.
Puerto Vallarta has always been a safe place, and I don't think it's gonna keep staying that way. Sometimes storm happens. It's more like a hurricane than anything. People will rebuild, and he created a sense of community more. I felt that too. So people will help each other, and they will protect the place. They'll make sure that people come back for sure, because everybody depends on it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Romain, I don't want to take much more of your time. I don't know if I miss anything, and thank you for doing this. Last minute. I think it's gonna help because we see a lot of panic, uh, and I'm happy to hear that people are already kind of in a mood where they want to rebuild, they want to help each other.
Yeah.
And you're a foreigner; you have been living there 15 years, so I'm sure you feel Mexican in some way.
A huevo.
You're integrated in the community, so you care about it. So yeah, I hope everything will went well, and I'm happy to hear that in the end, nobody close to you got hurt or anything. So yeah,
Everybody's fine.
I hope everything will be well.
Thank you very much, Messiage. Well, it's a pleasure. Everything will be fine.